Okay, it's week 9 of the Premier League season. Just a quick word about how I put these together. I do watch the games online when I can, and I use CricFree, that's CricFree, online, and I watched this match, Everton against West Ham, at that website. It's pretty good. And I would recommend it. I also use VIP League. They are a bit unpredictable. Sometimes they are reliable. Other times the coverage keeps on failing, and you have to keep on constantly restart it and walk through the minefield of adverts. Okay, now to the action then. Everton versus West Ham. The Hammers were without Cresswell. They also had Yarmolenko on the bench. He was involved in a tough struggle in midweek for his country, Ukraine. So Pellegrini decided to rest him, and Roberto continues to deputise for Fabianski in goal. For the Toffees, 40 Vs in a row now, and there was no Delph, and Sigurdsson was dropped and put on the bench. An opportunity then for Tom Davis, who I hadn't seen for a long time in midfield. He was in, and no Calvert-Lewin either, although Richarlison retained up front, and Walcott, he was in from the start, and he hasn't played a lot of first team football either. And early action, free kick for West Ham 2.5 minutes in, and their effort just went slightly wide. 6 minutes, by this time Everton was starting to dominate a little, and Walcott, a nice turn in the box, got his shot away, but it hit Ogbonna and went away for a corner, and from that corner the ball was flicked on, and a Davis effort looked like it was cleared off the line. So alarm bells for West Ham then. 16 minutes, another good approach work by Walcott, and he put Bernard through into the box. Well, Bernard decided to check back on himself, and it looked like the opportunity had gone, but then he swiveled back heading towards goal, beat the defender for dead, went to the byline and managed to clip the ball between post and keeper, and it was an acute angle, but the Toffees weren't worried about that because they were now 1-up. So they deserved their lead, did Everton, and they continued to really look the team more likely to score again. Richarlison outpaced the defender on the left, and his cross shot at the byline was battered away by Roberto. Then on 22 minutes, another purposeful attack saw Iwobi put Richarlison in, and this time he hit the post. 23 minutes then, another good attack from Everton. And for the next 15 minutes, they were definitely on top. West Ham really toothless in attack. The final ball was very poor. And in defence, the Hammers didn't seem to be closing down. And the midfield of Everton had bags of time to spray the ball around. Davis was particularly looking good on his return to the team. And Iwobi and Walcott and Richarlison linking well, and all having good moments. We got to the break then, 1-0, but to be perfectly frank, Everton should have really been more than 1-up. So to the second half then, and Yarmolenko was introduced off the bench, but the play developed much the same, with Everton in control. The Hammers did have a half a chance when Fornals set up by Yarmolenko, hit a shot wide. On 53 minutes, though, again, West Ham on the front foot. Mina's header just wide from a corner. And 6 minutes later, Digne had a free kick just outside the box, and his left foot shot just curled just enough for Roberto to fend away. 64 minutes, an opportunity for Walcott after a poor defensive headed clearance, and his shot rocketed against the bar. A let-off again for West Ham. A minute later, though, Gomez, who looked pretty strong in midfield, fouled Lanzini just outside the Everton box, but Yarmolenko's effort was comfortable for Pickford. Only one goal in it then, so still the game was in the balance. 76 minutes, Iwobi put through, and his effort hits the keeper and goes for a corner, although he should have done better. And a Dina header was chalked off for an offside, but personally I couldn't see what the problem was. And then a minute later, Walcott got to the byline, and his cross shot hit a defender, and Roberto had to react very quickly to avoid the old goal. Pickford later got in the way of a chance in the box for the Hammers, following a corner, which wasn't a corner. And then in the latter part of the match, Sigurdsson was brought on to freshen things up, and in a matter of minutes he'd done just that. On 91 minutes, he collected the ball outside the box, he swivelled, made a yard of space, and hit a cracking shot that hit the roof of the net. And that was it. Everton fans relaxed. They were now 2 up, and shortly after that the final whistle went. Disappointing West Ham. Really a well-needed win for Marco Silva. So final score at Goodison Park, Everton 2, West Ham 0. To Selhurst Park then, Crystal Palace at home to Manchester City. Hennessy and Tompkins were back for Palace, as was Milivojevic after his suspension. City, well, De Bruyne and Mendy were back from injury. Aguero was on the bench, Jesus up front. And the two midfielders were at the back, Fernandinho and Roderick. Into the early action then, and an early sort of scare for Palace. De Bruyne, who else, with a juicy cross, and Jesus just couldn't get that final touch, but panic stations for Palace at the back. It was all City really, and then they then let their guard down, and Saha had a bit of a break on, but Sterling running back in defence, got in the tackle to thwart him. As I say, most of the possession was City on 39 minutes. Jesus' low header from a Bernardo cross, and yes, it went in off the post, and that was 1-0 to City. Then 2 minutes later, a sublime goal. Great counter-attacking football, and it ended up with Sterling on the edge of the box, and his audacious sort of lob pass over the defender was met by David Silva running on, and he hit it on the volley, not too strongly, but it was silky, and it was too good for Hennessy, and that was 2-0. Half-time arrived, and Palace really, lacking any cutting edge really at the up front. After the break, it started a bit more positively. Koyati had an earlier shot that went over, but then Sterling at the other end, his shot clipped the post. The stats, 70% of possession for City at that point, but Palace did slowly improve, and Benteke was brought on. He'd signed a new contract, and his initial header from a corner had to be pushed onto the post. But after that, City got back in the groove again. Jesus went for goal when he should have actually slid it in for De Bruyne, so it stayed 2-0. And a De Bruyne header hit the post near the end, following good work by Gundogan. And Ederson came up with a save to deny Saha just before the final whistle. But all in all, it was a comfortable day at the office for Manchester City. They won this game by 2-0. To Stamford Bridge then, Chelsea against Newcastle. Newcastle unchanged after that win against the Red Devils. Chelsea, Barkley was in for the injured Kante, and Hudson-Odoi playing selected as well. And we got going, and it was all Chelsea really. They were on the front foot, and Hudson-Odoi on the left was causing quite a number of problems. He had an early cross which found Willian. Unfortunately, heading isn't Willian's strong point, and so it went away without any due concern for the Newcastle defence. Another cross by the said Hudson-Odoi, and this time he found Mount, who spanned sharply, and his shot was met by Dubravka. A rare attack by Newcastle, but the final header far too difficult for Linton, and it went wide. So we reached the break goalless, although Chelsea were definitely on the front foot. Into the second half then, and a Willian corner found Abraham, who headed against Clark's shoulder, and it skewed onto the bar. Chelsea were on top now more, and Abraham headed over from another corner. And then a sharp break, a deflection to Pulisic, the American, and Dubravka denied him. 73 minutes, a Willian shot was repelled again by Dubravka, who was having a good game. And then finally, 74 minutes, the breakthrough. Pulisic again, the provider. He hits a long ball to the far post, and Alonso managed to get it, and he pulled it across the keeper into the far corner, and they were up 1-0. That was about it then. A bit of a struggle to Chelsea. Abraham should have made it 2 later on, but hardly anything from Newcastle in attack. Final score at Stamford Bridge then was Chelsea 1, Newcastle 0. So to the King Power Stadium then, Leicester versus Burnley. Perez was in for Leicester. There was no Barnes for Burnley, however, and the stadium were remembering their chairman from Thailand, Vichai, who lost his life approximately a year before. It was a very emotional packed stadium as we got the minute's silence, and the stadium was awash with pictures of Vichai. Leicester 6 unbeaten at home, Burnley 6 away matches without a win. Got off to a quick start. Hendrick got in the book after 2 minutes, and then dangerous play by Leicester. Maddison in the thick of it, and he caused chaos in the Burnley penalty, but it was cleared by defence. Then on 15 minutes, a neat move from Burnley and a ricochet off some legs gave Wood the chance, but Schmeichel was big and strong and he pushed it away. Both sides were spraying the ball around neatly, and it was exceedingly good on the eye. And then on 25 minutes, a clearance by Leicester's defence went to McNeil on the right, and he gave himself a yard of space, clipped a lovely left foot cross into the box, and Wood, climbing head and shoulders above the 2 Leicester defenders, headed the ball high onto the top of the bar, inside of course, but the top of the bar, and that was 1-0 to Burnley. 5 minutes later, Tielemans had a shot which worked Pope, and then on 38 minutes, Vardy got his first opportunity on a counter attack, but his effort
hit the side netting following good work by me forcing him wide. But then Vardy finally got Leicester on the scoreboard on 44 minutes. A great cross from Barnes, and Vardy's high above all of them. His header was clinical, hit the net, and Leicester had pegged it back, and it was 1-1, and it stayed that way till the interval. Into the second half then, Leicester on the front foot early on. Maddison had a shot just over. He and Tielemans were running the show now. Burnley just relying on the counter-attack. And on 74 minutes, the Belgian put Leicester in front. Gray cross was cleared only as far as Tielemans on the edge of the box, and he lashed his shot, and it hit the roof of the net. So Leicester back in front. But Burnley weren't done, and they continued to be a threat, and they were rewarded. And the balls pushed through to Wood, and he got a knee to the ball, and then it hit Schmeichel, and then rebounded back to Wood, whose contact went past the keeper. And as he was running, Evans, who was in front of him, desperately trying to get to the goal line to clear, Wood clipped his heel, and it delayed his ability to clear the ball, and by the time he got there it had crossed the line. So initially a goal was given, but then VAR stepped in and had a good look at it, and of course they saw the clip on the heel, so it was disallowed. Dyche wasn't at all pleased, of course, but that was it. Leicester got to the finished line, and they had held on and won the game by 2-1.
So to the new White Hart Lane then. Bottom of the table, Watford were in town. Pochettino made 7 changes in all to his side. Dele Alli was started his first game of the season. Spurs, of course, have shipped 10 goals in the last 2 games before the international break. Jalabert was in for Gray for Watford, and we'd only played less than 2 minutes before Welbeck, a mystery really, but he went down and had to be replaced by Deulofeu. But it didn't seem to affect Watford that much, because on 6 minutes Doucouré was on the end of a Jalabert cross to hook it in at the near post, with the Spurs defence sleeping, and Watford were 1 up. After that, Spurs got going a little bit, but another break by the Hornets led to Deulofeu rushing into the penalty area. The defender collided with him, and he went over, and on replay it looked like a clear penalty. However, the combination of the referee and VAR saw nothing. The Hornets survived to the break, then 1 up, and in fact were probably good value for it. Into the second half, they brought on Son, the Korean, and within minutes he'd hit the bar. Watford was still dangerous on the break, and Deulofeu managed to set up Pereira, but a late challenge by one of the defenders, I think Alderweireld, managed to force the effort to go wide. Another defensive mess by Spurs, and another chance went astray for the Hornets. They should have been 2 up, but then a calamity occurred at the other end. It was 81 minutes, a horrible mix-up between Foster and his defender. They made a right meal going for a ball. The ball then slid to Dele Alli. There was some suggestion that he may have controlled it with his arm, but anyway, he hooked it in from a tight angle, and after VAR had a look at it, they decided that it was a goal, and so Spurs had levelled it 1-1. That's how it finished then. Spurs
scraped the draw. Watford, well, they should have put their chances away, but I suppose for the bottom club it was a well-earned point. Final score then, Spurs 1, Watford 1. So to Villa Park, Aston Villa versus Brighton. These two hadn't met each other in the top flight since 1983. Villa was celebrating 1 year in charge for Dean Smith. They also gave a warm ovation to Tyrone Mings, who'd made his debut for England in the week in Sofia and had suffered that awful racist abuse from the crowd in Bulgaria. Villa were unchanged. They also had McGinn in the side. He got himself a hat-trick for Scotland in the week. That was the first by a Scottish player since 1952. So lots of good news for Villa. Brighton's Propper was back after a 2-game break with a hamstring problem. Not much to report in the first 20 minutes. But on 22 minutes, Ryan got a paw to a Hourihane free kick from 30 yards. But then Brighton went up the other end, across to the far post. Webster, 23 minutes, headed across the keeper, and it found the corner. And Brighton had taken a shot 1-0 lead. Heaton then blocked a shot from Connolly to keep the score to 1, and then Moy, who had already picked up a yellow for a really stupid ball interference, then fouled again on 35, got a second yellow, and he was off. So Brighton were down to 10 men. Villa slowly cranked up the pressure on 42 minutes. A sloppy punch by Ryan came out to the edge of the box. The cross was found by Hourihane, whose shot flew in the corner. However, VAR had a look at it and decided that Ryan had been fouled when he jumped for the ball, so it was chalked off. 47 minutes in added time, though, Villa finally got on level terms. Grealish heavily involved in the build-up, got the ball out to the right, found his way into the box. The cross came across. There were 4 Brighton defenders in the box, but somehow they all managed to avoid the ball, and Grealish was there to steer it in from a couple of yards out. So that was it, 1-1 at the break. Second half, not a lot to be said for the first 30 odd minutes. Montoya had an effort that was dealt with by the keeper. It looked like we were going to end up at a stalemate, but then on 92 minutes Ryan kicked away an effort from Villa, and then 94 minutes, good work by Grealish again, and he managed to coordinate a move to the far post, and Target was there, who rifled in the shot into the corner. It was a sharp finish. It was 94 minutes, and Villa had snatched the game, probably deservedly, but they'd made heavy weather of the 10 men, and so the final score was Aston Villa 2, Brighton 1. Grealish, man of the match.
So to Molineux then, Wolves against Southampton. Wolves, fresh off their win at the Etihad a fortnight back, unbeaten in 5. Traore retained, of course, after his brace. Bennett and Jolly returned. The Saints were unchanged, apart from Westergaard, who came back in the back 4. To the action then, early effort from Moutinho went well over, and then a quick boot way upfield by Patricio, and Jimenez collected the ball and pushed it wide of the keeper, but on the flag had gone up. He'd assisted the control with his shoulder and arm, so it was denied. And then another opportunity for Jimenez, and this time he was following up from a shot that was parried to him after Petronic had put him through, and the goal was awarded. But then, as they were about to kick off, VAR had done their usual check and decided to reverse it on the basis that Petronic was just offside before he delivered his shot, which ricocheted to Jimenez. So that goal was chalked off again. So 2 goals chalked off for Wolves in the first half. We saw nothing much of Southampton really into the second half then, and Southampton upped their game, and on 53 minutes Ings capitalised on a real dreadful blunder by Cody to shoot the ball past Patricio on 53 minutes, and Saints were 1 up. The game was still being played in Southampton's half, however, and then Doherty, about 8 minutes later, ran into the box. He evaded one challenge, but the second one got him. He fell over like a sack of potatoes. A penalty was awarded. Jimenez converted for 1-1, and Wolves were at least on parity. After that, really, there was some half chances, but it petered out, really. Final score at Molineux was 1-1. Patchy performance by Wolves, really, but Southampton will probably be pleased with the fact that they got what they set out to get. Final score then, Wolves 1, Southampton 1. To the Vitality Stadium then, Bournemouth against Norwich. These two sides had no clean sheets all season, so we were expecting a goal fest. Unfortunately, what you expect isn't exactly what you get, and it was a game devoid of any real chances, and it was a pretty poor watch. The highlights, well, team news first. Smith was back in for Bournemouth. Krul returned in goal for Norwich, as did their club captain Teta. Chances in the first half, few and far between. Callum Wilson had a half chance and Krul stood big to deny him, and that was about it. First half over, goalless. Second half, well, another half chance for Smith, but he shot over and he would have been offside anyway. Cherries had most of the possession. Wilson had a chance that he should have done better with. He headed it just wide. The solitary chance for the Canaries on 65 minutes, when Pukki got hold of the ball, he created a yard of space. He hit a sharp shot, but Ramsdale was there to push it wide. And another effort for Bournemouth, saw Krul well capable of handling it. So really, that was about it. It slid to a dreary goalless draw, and a very poor game.